When people think about London, they most probably think of a city filled with architectural, artistic, and historic treasures. But it's also a place of botanical treasures, especially at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew, located about 8 miles southwest of London on the River Thames. Kew Gardens, as it is most commonly known, covers 326 acres. The estate was created in the early 1700s when the property was merged with the nearby Richmond estate, long a royal deer park. Kew was the summer home and retreat for several generations of royals, most notably King George III, who ruled during the time of the American Revolution. He was confined here several times as doctors tried to find the cause and the cure for what they believed was the king's madness. What we now know as Kew Gardens began in 1759. The gardens were not just a place for the nobility to stroll. They were to be a repository for the exotic plants coming from the far-flung corners of the British Empire. The idea was to study them and exploit them for their economic and medicinal benefits. Kew Gardens has 50,000 plants native to 21 climate zones around the world. Many of the plants are housed in climate-controlled environments, like in the Palm Pavilion, which opened in 1848. It simulates the heat and humidity of the tropics. The even larger Temperate Pavilion, opened in 1899, is currently undergoing extensive renovations and is not scheduled to reopen until May of 2018. One of the newest buildings at Kew is the Princess of Wales Pavilion, opened in 1987. It's dedicated to the memory of the late Princess Diana. Inside are plants from 10 climate zones. The building is extremely popular with school children, who learn that the mission of Kew is to preserve and protect plant life. A staff of 750 employees, countless volunteers, and a bountiful supply of bees keep Kew buzzing and beautiful. A wealthy Flemish merchant built a grand house at Kew in 1631. It was eventually purchased by the royal family. The building came to have some rather unpleasant associations. King George III suffered from a very rare and undiagnosed disease called porphyria. The disease caused, among other things, muscle weakness, insomnia, and violent outbursts. The king's first episode was in 1788. His health returned, but there were other episodes over the next 30 years. When stricken, the king was taken to the Kew Palace to keep him out of public view and away from court. He often had to be restrained, some referring to him as Mad King George. When the king died at the age of 81 in 1820, the Kew Palace was largely abandoned. The king's granddaughter, Queen Victoria, wanted to sell the property but was talked into opening it to the public. The palace fell into serious disrepair. In the early 1990s, it was closed to the public. Later, it went through a 10-year restoration, reopening in 2006. The kitchen, which sat abandoned for nearly 200 years, reopened in 2012. Inside, you see the king's bathtub. One of the treatments for his illness was alternating hot and cold baths. The palace is open during the summer months only. Guides in period costumes and volunteers are happy to answer questions and give insight into how the royals lived. Kew Gardens is a short train ride from central London. From the rail station, it's a short walk to the entrance to the gardens. Once inside, though, be prepared to walk a lot. But there's also a tram that will take you to see all the sights. The goal of Kew is to preserve and protect plants so that they will in turn help preserve and protect humankind and, as a bonus, inspire us with their beauty and grace.